Hello everyone, welcome to Discover Dermatology channel. My name is Dr. Rohan Yesudian. I've just finished my medical degree at the University of Cambridge. I'm joined today by a man who needs no introduction. This is Professor Patrick Yesudian, consultant and dermatologist, also my grandfather, so I'll address you as Gapa. I thought today that I'd be interviewing Gapa to find out some tips, advice from all the lessons he's learnt from his long career in dermatology. Gapa, when did you become a dermatologist?
Actually, this was during my house surgency period. My first love was neurology. Then when I worked for 2 months in neurology, in those days neurology and neurosurgery were combined. I found most of the patients came in an advanced stage where we couldn't do anything for them. It was very sad to see them all pass away because we had no CT scans, no MRIs, and patients invariably came with advanced papilledema and where nothing could be done, even though we had very clever neurosurgeons at that time. At that time, we had a professor of dermatology who had recently qualified in England and come back and joined as a professor. He was late Dr. Tambaya, who was a very knowledgeable man. I just happened to attend one of his classes and I found that it was very interesting, and that's when my interest in dermatology was triggered. And it so happened he saw my interest in dermatology and mentored me throughout and helped me to get to UK for my further studies.
It shows the importance of the mentorship and teachers who are genuinely interested in the students. This was back in which year, Gapa?
1960.
Wow, okay.
And then it so happened that when I went to England, I went to Scotland. I was quite miserable in that cold climate. But I had my second mentor in Dr. Frean Bell, who was head of the Department of Dermatology in Dundee Royal Infirmary. He was also the father of photobiology in Scotland. And he continued to mentor me there and went out of his way to help me. And he also paid 2 trips to India to see how I was getting along. So mentorship, I think, is very much required, particularly in the field of dermatology.
Excellent, Gapa. So you've been a dermatologist for so many decades now. How has the field of dermatology changed since you've started being a dermatologist?
Well, I'm now running 89 years and I've been in dermatology for more than 6 decades. There has been a sea change in dermatology as in many other specialties also, not just in dermatology. Just to give you an example, when I started in the 1950s, griseofulvin was not freely available. So anybody with tinea capitis was considered an incurable, or they tried treating them with thallium orally or superficial x-rays, both of which were very dangerous therapeutic approaches. Likewise, in neurology, when I started, no CTs, PET scans, MRIs. We only had X-ray, ordinary plain X-ray, and what is called carotid angiogram, which is a very brutal way of diagnosing intracranial tumors. Today, it's made very easy by the MRIs. You can pinpoint the tumor in the brain. So there has been changes in all specialties, including dermatology.
It's hard to imagine using carotid angiogram, all these superficial x-rays, even for like the tinea capitis. It's hard to believe that was what it was like. Moving on to, I guess, a lot of the viewers of this channel are aspiring dermatologists, as well as those just interested in the skin conditions and treatments. So what qualities would you say, in your experience, make a good dermatologist?
First of all, they should always try to concentrate on medical dermatology. Unfortunately, it so happened that the present generation of dermatology, they want to do more and more procedures. But procedure is only secondary. The basic thing in dermatology is medical dermatology, seeing the patient, making a diagnosis. That should be the basis, foundation on which they should build their practice. If they don't do that, dermatology will soon die out.
So focus more on what we've been brought up with, the medical practice, medical school, rather than too many procedures. Okay.
You should be like Sir William Osler, who said in his tombstone he wanted this written: he taught medicine at the bedside. So they should spend more time at the bedside examining and diagnosing cases rather than simply going and doing procedures.
Yes. Even professors back in the UK will always say that's the history and examination, that's a dying art. And yeah, we should always maintain that as the utmost priority. And Gapa, a similar question. What advice would you give for those who are aspiring to become dermatologists? Or even young dermatologists?
One is to observe patients carefully. See, I think it was a famous French dermatologist over 100 years ago. He described dermatitis herpetiformis. He said the most important instrument in dermatology has always been, and will always continue to be, the naked eye. So instead of relying on all these equipments, you learn to see. And this is what Sherlock Holmes told Watson. Watson, you see, but you don't observe. So they must learn to see and observe and make diagnosis rather than immediately go for investigations. The present trend is you see something, you examine, send for CT scan, this, that, biopsies and things like that. But first, make a clinical diagnosis. As again Osler used to say. When he was asked, how do you approach a patient, he said, 3 important things he told: diagnosis, diagnosis, and diagnosis.
Do you think that these days we're too impatient to properly work up someone for a clinical diagnosis?
Yes, everybody wants to rush off to the lab to make the diagnosis.
Another question, Galpa. What are you most proud of in your career?
Many things to be proud of: my awards, the prizes I got, the degrees, honorary degrees that I got. My most important pride is in bringing out a book. It's not an earth-shattering book, but nevertheless it was published by 3 generations of us: myself, my son Dr. Paul Divakar, and my grandson Rohan Yesudian. It's published by Kaga recently. It's called Dermatosis in Skin of Color. It's a useful book, particularly directed at people who are not very familiar with colored skin dermatosis, which is becoming more common in the West also, with the global village becoming smaller. People with colored skin are found all over the globe, and you may encounter these cases. It's worthwhile going through this small but compact book on dermatosis of skin of color.
I'll leave a link to that book. It's somewhere on screen. But it was very fun writing that book with yourself, with my father as well, seeing all those pictures which sometimes we hardly ever see these days. It is really nice that you've kept all those pictures in good quality as well. Okay, finally, Gapa, throughout your career, what has dermatology taught you about yourself and about other people?
Myself, it taught me a lot of patience, which I think is very important in dermatology, because most of the skin diseases are either not cured or they are recurrent, and so we must have a lot of patience with the persons who come to consult us, not to lose our patience with them. And the second thing is about the people who come to see me. Human beings are human beings. Every single patient is different from the next. So we can't generalize and talk about patients, but on the whole, there are some who are extremely grateful for the small things that we do for them. On the other hand, there are people who are never satisfied with whatever we do. They'll come to you, and then next day they would have gone to some other doctor, come with a big file of about a dozen dermatologists they have consulted. You can never satisfy those people. This is not surprising, because the good book says how Christ himself treated 10 leprosy patients. Only one came back to thank him. The other 9 just disappeared. So that's human behavior. It will continue to be the same till the end of time.
Do you have any tips? Sometimes it can be quite saddening or upsetting when patients come back at you like that. Do you have any tips on how to manage that?
Well, just empathize with them. That's all we can do. We have seen some cases of pemphigus and So, fortunately, most skin diseases can now be controlled, if not cured. It can be controlled with the biologicals and other sophisticated methods that are available. So, there is no need to be very pessimistic about it, like we used to in those days when we had a pemphigus patient in the ward, only steroids available. We knew the mortality was as high as 30% sometimes for pemphigus vulgaris. Today, that is not the case. So we can always empathize with the patient and tell them that we'll try to help you out. But above all, this concentrate on medical dermatology. Repeatedly I tell the students, don't be taken away with all these fancy gadgets. It's all nice. It brings you a lot of money in your practice. But the basic core of dermatology should be medical dermatology. You're examining the patient, clinico-pathological correlation, you come to a proper diagnosis. That should be the basis, the foundation on which you build your practice. Medical dermatology should be the first and the last, the alpha and the omega, the beginning and the end. That's the advice I give to generations of PGs.
It's a great note to end on. Gapa, thanks so much. They call you the teacher of teachers, and I can see why. Thank you so much, all of you, for listening to this video. If you liked it, please consider subscribing to the channel, and we'll be back with more videos about dermatology and related topics. Thanks.